Hey Laci, fancy meeting you here.
Question. Have you ever worried that someone was lying about rape?
I'll be honest, I don't think about it a whole lot, but it does happen. Why do you ask? Are you planning something?
Every single time a woman comes forward about having been abused by a beloved movie star, musician, TV star, YouTubers, that star's fans immediately accuse her of lying.
Well, because in addition to the plethora of reasons to lie about rape, you've now added a monetary incentive. Not to mention, it's quite important to uphold the presumption of innocence. You know, innocent until proven guilty. Something you morons have obviously buried in the litter box.
There are men's groups online that claim that women lie about rape 90% of the time.
I definitely am not saying that it's impossible, but I don't think it's held in common opinion, so I did a brief search to find exactly what men's rights websites were giving this 90% statistic, and strangely, the only results I could easily find were feminist websites stating that MRAs throw around that number. Sounds unbiased, doesn't it?
A sheriff in Idaho very recently claimed that they don't need a better system for rape kits which collect evidence because most victims are liars.
The majority of our rapes that are called in are actual consensual sex.
Okay, I just have to ask, are you retarded? An official who probably dabbles in more rape cases than you says that most of the calls he gets are of consensual sex, and he's lying? You know that calls about rape could come from neighbors or anyone within earshot of people having rough sex, right? Just making sure.
And I mean, look, couldn't you or me or anybody in the world just make up a rape for attention?
Yes.
To get revenge?
Yes.
Out of jealousy, as Toby Turner's mom posted on Facebook? Yeah, you could totally do that.
Glad we're on the same page.
But would you do that?
I wouldn't personally, but it is that easy. Can you honestly speak for an entire population? Sure, I respect the fact that maybe you wouldn't, but not everyone is cut from the same non-biased, logical, omniscient cloth that you are, dearest Laci.
And how often does that actually happen? The FBI states that between 2 and 8% of rape reports are false, which is actually a low number in the crime world.
I did you a favor and read the document you cited as your source for false rape accusations. After scouring all 19 pages, I have concluded that not only are you unable to read, but that you are brain dead. This is a document update on how to report rape and not a formal analysis of rape statistics. If you must know, the myth actually comes from a book by Susan Brownmiller called Against Our Will, Men, Women, and Rape, a feminist propaganda book written in 1975. Huh.
Other crimes, like, say, theft, they hover around 10% false reports. And even that 2 to 8% statistic is deceptive. It includes reports where someone accidentally identified the wrong person, reports that are thrown out because of inconsistent details.
Don't be stupid. Reports thrown out due to inconsistent details are recorded as neither true or false, hence the term thrown out. These are typically cases of he said, she said. Only reports that have been confirmed false are recorded as false. Do you know how this shit works?
But it is a well-known fact amongst victimologists that trauma affects your memory, and that 2 to 8% includes survivors who recanted. Someone could take it back because they were lying, sure, but much more commonly, they take it back because they're being pressured to take it back.
Nice anecdote. I can do it too. Watch. Even more commonly than victims being pressured to take it back is the fact that victims don't always give the underlying reason for why they're taking it back. Also, recantations for sexual assault are not all that common. Here's the preliminary result of a study conducted by University of Michigan Law in 2013, the first systematic study of recantation. According to the study, it was found that only 5% of sexual assault cases involved recantation. Look, real evidence.
Or because they've decided they'd rather just not deal with it. So what does this mean? It means that malicious, actually false reports and allegations are pretty rare.
Actually, it means that nothing you've said so far is credible, and therefore the assertion you're making now isn't either.
And yet, doubting someone, calling them a liar when they come forward, is extremely common.
Considering the fact that not only could an innocent person spend years in prison, they could also lose their family, their job, everything they've worked for, become ostracized by society, or be physically assaulted in the aftermath. This is why it's very important to exercise presumption of innocence.
For one, most perpetrators aren't greasy, creepy guys who hang out in the shadows. They're just regular people in our lives.
Correct. They are typically loved ones who know the victim. The same case can be made for false accusations. What's your point?
When fans, friends, family, coworkers find out that someone that they know and love did something terrible, it can be really hard to grapple with and accept, and instead, they choose to deny it.
When you say it like that, it sounds like you've already judged them as guilty. They are not, and the accused loved ones are only showing faith in the accused. Again, what's your point?
That halo effect around a perpetrator can be so strong that you can have cases like Cosby's where nearly 60 women come forward and report and people still don't believe that anything happened.
Yeah, and people still argue about evolution. Cosby has already been damned in the court of public opinion.
Sometimes the perpetrator even goes so far as to say, I didn't do it. They're lying.
What? The nerve of some fucking people. Is that a joke? Sometimes people being accused of rape say they didn't do it? Well, fuck me running. We better put an end to that shit right now. How many cases did the FBI report about this? By the way, you're a twat.
This affirms people who don't want to believe that the sexual assault happened. There are a lot of people, particularly in the States, who believe that in order for a rape to be real, you have to have reported it.
Laci, I don't think anyone actually says that. People outside of the US, she's lying. We don't think like that.
And in order for that report to be true, a court must convict them as guilty.
That's because it's the humane thing to do and people still have brains. You know what would happen if we took everyone's word for everything? We would still be sitting on a flat mass of land at the center of the universe praying to God as we waited to die of the consumption.
Now, in reality, about 68% of victims of sexual crimes don't report, and only 2% of rapists ever see a day in jail.
Alright, Laci, I know you've got the cognitive capacity of a cocker spaniel humping a teddy bear to completion, but I need to ask you something. I can see where you got your number for reported rape. My first question is, how can you confirm whether rape went unreported or not? I was under the impression that you couldn't because there are so many factors to consider that you can't even get a ballpark estimate. My other question is, if it can be determined, that can only mean that police know about rape cases that aren't reported, either through statistical analysis, divine intelligence, or some other form of mysticism. So why aren't they out preventing them?
Does that mean that 98% of people are just lying? No, it means that our courts aren't arbiters of truth, and they're not always adequately equipped to handle sexual crimes.
I take it you're much better equipped to handle sexual crimes? If you had even half a say in how these proceedings went down, my ass would be swimming to fucking Indonesia by now. I'm not saying we have a very good court system, but just as many innocent people can be locked away as there are criminals being let go.
Then there are myths about how a real victim would act. In reality, there's no one response to sexual assault. Different people handle it in lots of different ways.
Hey, I bet we can apply this lesson to other things. Let's see.
And I mean, look, couldn't you or me or anybody in the world just make up a rape for attention to get revenge out of jealousy? Yeah, you could totally do that. But would you do that? People handle it in lots of different ways.
Hey, the only valid point you've made this video.
Another myth when it comes to men is the belief that men can't actually be raped. Men want sex all the time. He had an erection. He was into it. But an erection is not consent. And increased blood flow can be a fight or flight response.
All joking aside, there are select few people that claim men can't be raped, but it's just not usually an issue being discussed. Only stories involving women being raped at colleges get any coverage most of the time. But yeah, random boners totally happen. Just because I get a chub eating a ham sandwich doesn't mean I want to stick my dick in the mayonnaise. No means no, jar of mayonnaise.
Lastly, one of the sneakiest and I think most pervasive reasons why people don't believe survivors is that most survivors are women.
Duh, because women have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. And patriarchy. Definitely patriarchy. Sometimes 3 of them. You can't have just one patriarchy. And I mean for reals, what the hell were they doing out of the kitchen allowing themselves to get raped like that in the first place? Obviously, it's their fucking fault. By the way, I appreciate the anecdotes. We already know that your opinion isn't worth a broken dick, but at least you're not trying to lie about shit.
There are many subconscious sexist beliefs that we learn all throughout our lives that come in and inform our opinions. That women lie a lot, we're not trustworthy, we're manipulative.
If you were the only woman left on Earth, that would be a demonstrable fact, but as it stands, there are many very decent people of both sexes. Anyone can be a manipulative liar, though. It isn't directed to one gender.
You know, bitches be crazy.
Men are all the same. Men are dogs. Men only think with their dicks. Men are lazy slubs. Don't worry, Laci, we'll ignore these double standards. We already know that a man's worth is measured by the length of his dick and the thickness of his wallet. It's kind of like how you feminists calculate privilege.
When those attitudes and biases within ourselves go unchecked, they absolutely do real damage.
You know what else causes real damage? Getting your dick caught in your zipper. That shit hurts like hell.
False reports are illegal, and they're typically taken pretty seriously when they surface.
Say that again?
When they surface.
I'm sorry, one more time?
When they surface.
And one more, but slow it down a little bit for emphasis and lick your lips, you little minx.
When they surface.
Wow, that's great news. So, what happens when they don't? Oh.
We also need to talk about the reality that sexual assault accounts are nearly always true.
I'm going to hand out 5,000 surveys, and I am willing to bet not a single person will check the box that says, I lied about being raped and got my ex-boyfriend put in jail. Since you can't account for the actual number of rape cases that were false, or even the number of cases where an innocent man is still sitting in prison, you can't make that claim.
How men are far more likely to be sexually assaulted than to be falsely accused.
Don't worry about being accused of rape when you didn't do it. You're more likely going to get pegged in the ass. Was your jab necessary? I'd like to assume that you're just too stupid to breathe and don't realize how condescending you come off. You could have said, men are also victims of sexual assault, and left it there. But instead, you had to feed us some backhanded slight to prove a point based on your biases and inflated statistics. Fuck you. With consent, of course. Most men and women don't need your pseudo-pity because we hold ourselves accountable for our own safety and our own actions. Wipe that stupid patronizing look off your fucking face.
If false reports are something that worries you, know that statistically, you're on the side of reason and justice and truth to believe someone who comes forward.
Loved ones showing support to victims of sexual assault and loved ones showing support to the accused should both be natural responses. The problem with sex crimes is that by supporting one, you are effectively damning the other. This is part of why remaining skeptical and unbiased is important. You aren't on the side of truth or justice for shit if you don't give the accused due process, whether the number is 2% or 92%.
We need to be willing to face the truth, to approach justice honestly, even when the perpetrator is someone that we know and love.
You know, I agree with that. Fuck what I just said. Don't support your loved ones unless they claim to be a victim. The accused have no rights.
So to April Fletcher and any survivor who finds the strength to come forward on YouTube or beyond, I believe you. 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 And one day I hope that the world does too.